right, we have Neil Kruse from Centennial High School. And Neil, what year is this for you coaching at Centennial?
This is my 30th year at Centennial.
30th year.
Yep.
And you've coached with girls and boys in cross country the entire time?
Boys and girls the whole time, and it's a 7 through 12 program.
So, and you've coached other sports too?
I did. I coached for 4 years at Winnebago, and I coached the women's team at Southwest State in Marshall for a year, and I did track at Clarkfield for a couple of years.
All right. I know that when you started out, you didn't have teams going to state. You always had pretty good teams though at Centennial.
Well, we've always, well, I shouldn't say, probably since about 93, we started being pretty competitive with our teams.
So how long was it before you actually started having competitive teams?
I started coaching at Centennial in '87. 93 is when we had our first really competitive boys team. They were fighting for the section. Lost to White Bear Lake 2 years in a row, and then beat them finally. Finished behind Stillwater all those years, but it took us a few years to get things going. And what really helped is we started getting good athletes. Some of those football players that were, kind of small for football, but they still would go out for football. They were good athletes. They started coming out for cross country, and that's when we started getting better.
How did you get the football players to go out for cross country?
Actually, it was their friends that did a better job than me. I used to send out 100 letters every summer recruiting kids, and if I got 10 of those kids, I was pretty lucky. But when the kids started recruiting kids, we started jumping. We went from, I think, 30 to 45, and from 45 to 55, and 55 to 70. And so the kids started recruiting kids, and they'd see kids that were good at track or good soccer players that maybe would run a road race and say, oh, we need to get him or her out. So I think that instead of me, it was the kids recruiting that helped us.
I'm hearing that from a lot of coaches, that the kids, through the years, they wind up coaching the other kids, and they actually listen to kids better than the coaches, and kids wind up self-coached somewhat.
Yeah, in our program, we're fortunate that the older kids do a nice job of looking out for the younger kids. Like our freshman, Grace Johnson, does a great job of bringing Gracie and Tatum, who are 7th graders, just showing them the ropes, and they just feel cared for.
Yeah, there were two things that it seems like a lot of kids have problems at first. One of them is race strategy. How do you teach race strategy?
I tell you what, Bill, I don't do a very good job of that, because my personal opinion is that it's different for every person, and they've got to feel comfortable with what they do. And I'll throw out suggestions to kids, you think you could have started out a little faster, so today why don't you try running with this person for the first mile and see how that feels. If somebody went out too hard, well, okay, let's back off a little bit, let's try going slowing down a little bit. So I'm not real good with teaching race strategy. I try to help them develop what's best for them.
Have you ever had the experience of giving a kid race strategy, and then afterwards, like maybe even a year later, the kid comes up to you and says, you shouldn't have told me to do that?
Haven't had that, but I haven't had them thank me either, so.
Okay, then the other thing is, you get a lot of kids, or I'm sure you get some kids anyway, for sure, that don't run during the summer. Okay, then they come into cross country and they run too hard. Is there a way to counter that?
Well, we encourage summer mileage, and it really depends on year to year whether they really follow my recommendations. Some kids don't always take into account if they're playing summer soccer or summer basketball or summer hockey and those sorts of things. And so they may tell me that they overdid themselves. And if you combine all those things, it's probably true. Had they just run the mileage that we recommended, they would have probably been all right. And so it's tough when you get the multi-sport kids who want to excel at all those sports, and so they listen to all 2 or 3 of their coaches and try to do everything all those coaches do, instead of, hold up, my body can only handle so much, so I better, try to be a little bit better at separating out what I should do all summer. So that is a tough one. I do get some kids that think they've overworked themselves. I don't think our kids, many top 300 miles for the summer, and so I don't think we overwork it.
Do you have kids that think that they have to make their muscles sore in order to get somewhere?
Not very many anymore. That used to be more of a, probably in the early times when I was coaching, that was probably very true, but not so much anymore.
And how much do kids read about training? There's a lot on the internet and stuff. Do they read about it?
We have a fair number that do that, and sometimes I like that. Sometimes it's a challenge because the philosophy that they're reading about isn't necessarily what our philosophy is as a team, and so sometimes we butt heads a little bit. But for the most part, I think it's good for them to read what's out there. And this year's group, in particular, our senior boys, were pretty intellectual, and they did a lot of reading and a lot of looking at stuff. And but it comes and goes, depends on the group of kids.
Do you like them to read Runner's World?
I'm not as big a Runner's World fan because most of that's marathoning type stuff, and it's a different type. Personally, I like running times. I think they've got some good, appropriate articles for high school kids, and we usually try to hand out things to the kids that if it's something we think is important, I may tell them go to this website, but if it's really important, I give them a handout, and we try to go through it in kind of a classroom session type thing.
All right. Let's see. Do you have any? How do you like mile split? I mean, what do you like about mile split?
This isn't going to be good. You don't want to air this.
No, don't say it.
Because I really don't look at it.
Oh, you don't look at it. Okay.
It's not that it's a negative to me. It's just I don't take the time to look at it. I hear good things from kids and parents and assistant coaches, but I myself, I don't really look at it.
How could we improve it?
I guess it would have to be a priority for me to look at it. That would be the thing that I'd have to say. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not a big media person. I don't really go on the internet much, and so it's nothing against them. It's just I haven't gotten into it.
What could we do that would be so overwhelming that Neil Kruse, the long-time Centennial coach, would decide to tune in?
Probably need a personal secretary to tune me in. Once I get on it, I probably like it, but I just don't take the time to get onto it. So, like I say, I've had parents and assistant coaches that talk about, this was really good on mile split. Take a look at it, and I forget by the time I get home. So, I guess it's the old school senility sitting in here. So, it's got a good reputation from the people that I know that look at it. And I'm just not a media guy.
Do your kids watch it? Your athletes?
Some do, yeah. And maybe sometimes too much. And sometimes that could be a psych out when they look at different results,
Okay.
But again, it's all what you make of it.
Okay.
Everybody's got a choice to take that material or those times or whatever, and it's like, am I going to make it scaring me, or am I going to take it as a challenge? I'm going to go after it. So.
All right. Well, unless you have something else to say. That's all I've got.
No, I appreciate it, Bill. Always good talking with you. Appreciate
all right. Thank you, Neil. Neil Kruse.